The True Flavor Food Factory hummed with efficiency and innovation, where aromas of spices and artificial ingredients mingled in a fragrant symphony. Marta, a young food engineer, paced quickly through the bright hallways, her heart racing with excitement. After months of hard work, she finally had the opportunity to lead a new experimental project. Marta had always dreamed of creating a product that would change the way people perceive food. That morning's meeting promised to be a turning point. As she entered the conference room, she found her colleagues gathered, including Roberto, who watched her with a skeptical expression. "The new products need to be better than anything we've done before," the manager asserted, reflecting the immense pressure everyone felt. The team would work together to develop an innovative formula that promised to revolutionize the market. Yet, as they enthusiastically discussed flavors and animations, something dark lingered in the atmosphere, as if a cloud of anxiety hung over their excitement. Little did Marta know that in their quest for perfection and approval, there would be unexpected and horrifying consequences ahead. As the days passed, the atmosphere in the True Flavor Factory became increasingly charged. The team gathered daily, their discussions morphing from excited brainstorming sessions into frantic debates. Marta felt the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her as she divided tasks among her colleagues. Each member of the team was assigned a specific aspect of the new product, from flavor engineering to marketing strategies, yet the collaboration seemed to lack harmony. Roberto, ever the cynic, voiced his concerns. "If we push this too hard, we could end up with another failed launch. Remember the last time?" His words hung ominously in the air, triggering tense exchanges among the team members. Marta tried to keep spirits high, insisting they needed to think creatively, but in truth, the ground beneath her felt increasingly unstable. One afternoon, as Marta reviewed the new flavor concentrations in the lab, she noticed a colleague, Lily, staring blankly at a pipette. When their eyes met, Lily's expression was eerily vacant, as if she had just come out of a trance. Marta brushed it off as fatigue and focused on her work. However, the following day, when the team reconvened, whispers of strange occurrences began to circulate. Employees reported minor accidents and strange noises echoing through the factory. The unease was palpable, and as the pressure mounted to deliver a revolutionary product, a sense of foreboding settled over them all. The first testing day arrived with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The air in the lab buzzed with tension as the team prepared to sample the new product. Marta stood at the front, her hands trembling slightly as she held a small container filled with the latest formulation. It shimmered under the lab lights, reflecting their hopes and fears all at once. As she served the samples, she encouraged her colleagues. "This is it. Let's see how our hard work pays off." They gathered around, each taking a small taste, their expressions shifting from skepticism to intrigue. But as the last spoonful was consumed, the mood began to change. Marta took a sip herself, hoping to lead by example. Almost instantly, a heaviness settled in her chest. She felt as if a vice had tightened around her throat. Vision blurred, and the lab around her distanced itself into a surreal haze. Shadows danced at the edges of her sight, whispering secrets she couldn't quite understand. Panic surged within her, and she fought to breathe. In that surreal moment, flashes of her childhood surged forward. Memories of choking on food as her parents watched in horror, their faces twisted in confusion and concern. The laughter of children faded, replaced by a desperate silence as the past swallowed her whole. Around her, other team members began to react. Lily staggered back, her face pale and eyes wide. "I can't," she gasped, clutching her throat. Marta's heart raced as she realized they were experiencing the same suffocating terror. In that instant, the hopeful experiment spiraled into chaos, leaving them all gasping in both literal and metaphorical suffocation. As the chaos unfolded in the lab, panic took hold. Marta's mind raced as she struggled to regain control of the situation. She felt trapped, caught between the desire to help her colleagues and the terrifying sensation constricting her throat. The room was filled with muffled cries and alarming gasps for air as each team member faced their own demons. "Get some water," Marta shouted, her voice barely rising above the cacophony. But no one was listening. They were lost in their hallucinations, grappling with memories they'd buried deep within themselves. Lily sank to the floor, her eyes rolling back in a frantic daze. Roberto, normally the level-headed one, staggered against the counter. "What's happening? We need to get out of here." His voice cracked as he struggled to breathe, his body trembling with fear. Marta's panic soared, and she rushed to Roberto. Just as she reached out to him, the lab lights flickered violently, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Someone screamed, a sharp sound slicing through the fog of panic and pulling them momentarily back to reality. In that moment, clarity flickered in Marta's mind. The product was affecting them in ways they hadn't anticipated. She locked eyes with Lily, who nodded weakly, an understanding passing between them. They needed to leave the lab, to escape the suffocating atmosphere that had overtaken them. With a shaky breath, Marta took charge, urging the team to gather their strength and head toward the exit, hoping they could escape the nightmare they had unwittingly created. Once outside the suffocating confines of the laboratory, the team huddled in the break room, their faces pale and shaken. Marta leaned against the wall, trying to calm her racing heart while her colleagues collected themselves. The air felt fresher here, yet an uneasy tension still lingered, as if the weight of what had just happened was suffocating them all over again. Dona Clara, the factory's seasoned supervisor, entered the room, her expression grave. "What in the world happened in there?" she demanded, looking around at the frightened faces. With a shaky sigh, Marta stepped forward. "We were testing the new product, and things went horribly wrong," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Everyone started having hallucinations, and it felt like we were all suffocating." Aunt Clara's eyes darkened, and she nodded slowly. "This factory has a troubled history. I thought we had moved past those dark days. Years ago, we lost a team due to an experiment gone wrong. The product we've just developed, it might be triggering something deeper within you all." The room fell silent as her words sank in. Marta's heart raced as she realized the implications. The group's personal traumas were intertwining with the new product in a way no one had foreseen. "Is there a way to fix this?" Marta asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Dona Clara placed a hand on her shoulder. "We need to confront the roots of these fears. Only then can we hope to move forward." In the days that followed, the factory's atmosphere shifted from one of frantic chaos to a heavier, more introspective silence. Marta knew they needed a plan, and with Dona Clara's guidance, she set up a series of group meetings within the break room. The aim was to create a safe space for employees to share their experiences, to confront the memories that had been unleashed by the new product. Each meeting began uneasily, with team members exchanging glances, their faces still pale from the aftershocks of their earlier ordeal. However, as they began to share their stories, a sense of relief washed over them. Marta listened intently as colleagues revealed their struggles, from childhood fears to experiences that still haunted them in adulthood. When it was Roberto's turn, he spoke of a time when he nearly choked while eating alone as a child, the loneliness of that moment leaving deep scars. Tears filled his eyes as he expressed how fear of failure in his career often echoed that childhood experience. Marta felt her own vulnerabilities stir within her. When she finally spoke, she shared her own trauma, her struggles with the overwhelming expectation to succeed while carrying the weight of imperfect pasts. With every story shared, the air in the room became lighter, breathing life back into the very fabric of their team. They were no longer just a group of employees working on a product. They were individuals wrestling with fears, united by their collective journeys toward healing. The group sessions continued for weeks, gradually transforming the atmosphere at the factory. As they shared more of their personal truths, the unity among the team strengthened, but the specter of the failed experiment loomed over them. The upcoming progress presentation was a looming deadline, and Marta felt a surge of anxiety. Could they truly move forward with the project after everything that happened? As the day of the presentation approached, a collective unease settled over the team. They decided to elaborate on their findings, aiming to confront their fears alongside the product development strategy. However, as the presentation began, the intensity in the air became palpable. Marta stood on the stage, her heart pounding as she prepared to present their progress. The room was filled with the usual executives and stakeholders, waiting expectantly. But as she began to speak, she sensed a familiar tightening in her throat. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, and a strong wave of dread washed over her. Roberto, seated at the front, appeared to be pale and ashen-faced and suddenly murmured, "I can't breathe." His eyes widened in terror, and whispers of panic spread through the crowd. One by one, others began to feel the effects, the suffocating sensation returning like an unwelcome shadow. In that moment, realization struck Marta like lightning. The product they had worked so hard to perfect was entwined with their deepest fears. She had to stop this cycle. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, her voice breaking through the chaos. "No! "We need to confront what is happening here," she called out. "We can't keep ignoring our fears. It's time to face them together." Marta's voice cut through the turmoil, striking a chord within her colleagues as they fought against their panic. Slowly, awareness dawned on them. The chain of fear could only be broken through confrontation. At her urging, the team began to share their experiences aloud, weaving their individual stories into a collective tapestry of vulnerability. As they stepped out into the fresh air, the burden of secrecy lifted. Though the journey ahead would be challenging, they felt renewed, ready to face whatever lay ahead together.